I feel embarrassed, even ashamed, just saying this. It's hard to express these words, not easy to admit this truth, but I can't keep hiding it inside my mind anymore. I've tried to bury it, tried to forget, but the burden is too much to bear, so here I am telling you. I never wanted this to happen, but it did, and now I have to confront it. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so I can keep sharing compelling true stories like this one. And make sure to watch this video to the end because it's going to be a truly fascinating story. There are moments in life you wish you could erase, moments that change everything, yet you can't undo them. I never imagined my relationship with him would end up like this. At first, he was just a background figure in my life, a man who married my mother and became part of our family. But over time, something changed. I didn't notice it at first, or maybe I chose not to. The quiet moments, the lingering glances, at first they seemed harmless, just part of everyday life. But they weren't. They were the beginning of something I couldn't stop. I can't help but regret every second of it. The truth is, I'm not sure where it all went wrong. How did I let it go this far? How did I allow myself to feel something I should never have? The guilt, the shame, they suffocate me, and as much as I try to push them away, they're always there, gnawing at me, reminding me of what I've done. I can't take it back. That evening felt like any other. The kitchen was warm, filled with the lingering scent of dinner. We were talking, laughing, just a simple exchange after a long day. I didn't think anything of it, but then something shifted almost imperceptibly. It started with a silence between us, a pause that felt uneasy, yet neither of us moved to fill it. The space between us seemed to shrink, and before I knew it, we were standing so close I could feel his breath on my skin, the heat of his presence. And then it happened. A kiss, soft, hesitant, almost like an accident. It wasn't passionate, it wasn't intentional, or at least I didn't think so. But as soon as it happened, I felt the weight of it pressing down on me. It lingered in the air, hanging between us as if we both knew something had changed. The emotional intensity was overwhelming, but I didn't know what it meant. The second it ended, I stepped back, my heart pounding, my mind racing, with questions flooding in. What did this mean? Why did it happen? It was just a kiss, but it left me questioning everything, unsure of what to do with the feelings it stirred. It was late, the house was silent, the kind of quiet that makes everything feel heavier. I was emotionally drained, needing a moment to clear my head, so I stepped into the shower. The warm water soothed me for a while, but something felt off. I couldn't quite place it, just an odd sensation, like I wasn't alone. Then I heard it, footsteps, soft, deliberate, just outside the bathroom. My heart dropped. I froze, hoping it was nothing, but the sound didn't stop. They were too close. I couldn't see anyone, but I could feel the weight of their presence. Slowly, I realized he was standing there watching me. My mind raced, my breath quickened. I wanted to turn off the water and check if anyone was really there, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed, trying to convince myself I was imagining things, but the footsteps, steady and slow, kept getting closer. My stomach twisted, the unease in my gut grew. When the footsteps eventually faded, I was left trembling, unsure if I had heard them at all or if it was just my mind playing tricks. But one thing I knew for sure, the feeling stayed with me, lingering even after I stepped out of the shower. It was the day of my graduation, a moment I should have been proud of, but all I could think about was how close he had been standing to me earlier. I had felt the weight of his gaze in the shower, but now, in this public setting, his presence felt overwhelming in a different way. After receiving my diploma, he pulled me aside to congratulate me. When his hand brushed my waist, I felt a strange mixture of pride and discomfort. It wasn't romantic, but it felt too intimate. Then came the hug. His arms wrapped around me, and I couldn't help but feel it lasted longer than it should have. I wanted to pull away, but I didn't. The confusion inside me deepened, as if every moment with him was blurring the lines between what was right and what was crossing a boundary. It was just an accident, nothing more. I had been walking across the yard, lost in thought, when I twisted my ankle. The pain hit me instantly, sharp and unbearable, and I collapsed onto the grass, unable to stand. Before I even had time to react, he was there, rushing to my side. His presence felt oddly comforting, but something inside me shifted. He helped me to the couch, his hands steady and gentle. I tried to push away the strange feeling creeping over me, but it wasn't easy. He started massaging my injured leg to ease the pain. His touch was firm, yet there was an intimacy to it that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't necessary, not the way he was doing it. My mind raced with confusion. He was just trying to help, right? But his hands lingered too long, and the way he touched me felt too intimate for the situation. Then he kissed my forehead. So soft, so quick, but it felt like everything stopped for a moment. I couldn't move, couldn't think straight. He pulled me into a hug, holding me too closely, and I froze. Part of me didn't want to pull away, but another part of me felt completely unsettled. What was this? What did it mean? Why couldn't I make sense of it? My mom had been away for work, and he was home more often, working from the office in the corner of the living room. It left us alone more, and I was starting to wonder if that made things worse. More space for things to happen, for tension to build. I didn't want to experience it, but I did. We were strolling through the house, nothing unusual, just another moment in our daily routine. But then, as we passed through the hallway, his hand softly rested on my waist. It wasn't forceful, just a gentle touch, like he was trying to steady me. It was the kind of gesture someone might make to guide you through a crowd, but this felt different. The way his hand lingered just a second too long, it wasn't necessary, but it was real. I could feel the warmth of his touch, and it sent a shiver through me. It was a brief moment, but it carried so much weight. I couldn't tell if he was just being kind like a father, or if there was something more to it. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. Part of me wanted to, but another part of me felt lost. My heart raced, and I struggled to catch my breath. Why did it feel so intimate? Why was the boundary between family and something else becoming harder to distinguish? I never expected this to happen, but one night it did. We were alone, sharing a kiss, a moment that felt almost unspoken. The air was thick with something we both tried to ignore, but it was undeniable. I had been trying to push it away, convincing myself it was just a fleeting moment. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. That kiss, soft, hesitant, felt like more than just an accident. It was a crack in something larger. Then he gently placed his hands on my waist. It felt nice at first, with soft touches, then more caressing. My heart pounded faster, feeling like it might burst. He pulled me closer, my chest pressing against his. In a flash, he took my face in his hands and kissed me. I didn't resist. At that moment, it happened. Yes, it occurred. Then the door opened. I froze. My breath stopped as I saw my mom standing there, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Her face quickly shifted, contorting into a mix of anger and hurt. The intensity of her gaze was unbearable, and the silence that followed felt suffocating. Neither of us moved. What could we do? The truth was already hanging there, between us like a cloud we couldn't escape. I didn't know what to say, what to do. My mind raced, but everything felt so wrong. How could I explain this? How could I make sense of something I couldn't even understand myself? The seconds stretched, feeling like an eternity. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat louder than the last. I couldn't bring myself to look at either of them, my mom or my stepdad. My mom's face was unreadable, her lips trembling slightly as she processed the scene. I could see the pain in her eyes, the confusion, but mostly anger. I couldn't blame her. How could she look at me the same way after what she just saw? Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What? What is this? The words hit me like a slap. There was no softness, no understanding, only raw accusation filled with hurt. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What could I say? There was no explanation that would make sense, no excuse that could justify this moment. All I had were the tangled emotions inside. Guilt, shame, and something else I couldn't name. My stepdad shifted beside me, but didn't speak. The world felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for someone to break the silence, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I couldn't face the consequences of what had happened. Then my mom's voice broke through again, louder, filled with accusation. How could you do this to me? Her face was flushed with emotion. How could you let this happen? I didn't know how to respond. The shame consumed me, but the weight of my mom's pain was even worse. Her eyes, once filled with love, now only showed betrayal. I didn't know how to undo any of it. The aftermath of that night was a blur of emotions. Everything seemed to collapse in slow motion. My mom's anger toward both of us didn't disappear. Her disappointment was tangible. But what came next shocked me in ways I wasn't prepared for. She barely spoke to him for days. The tension between them was suffocating. The house that once felt like a safe place now felt cold and distant. I didn't know if she had already decided what to do, or if everything had just broken something inside her. Eventually, she filed for divorce. She never said it directly to me, but I saw it in the way she began separating their finances, looking for a new place to live. She didn't confront him about it, not directly at least. She was heartbroken, lost in her own pain. I could see it in her eyes. Part of me understood, even if I didn't fully agree with her decision. What we had done, the betrayal, was unforgivable. I knew that. But it didn't make watching everything fall apart any easier. She never went back to him. I don't know if it was the betrayal or the weight of everything, but she was a woman hurt beyond measure, and I had no idea how she'd ever heal. I don't think she ever truly forgave either of us. If you want to hear more confessions of true infidelity, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what comes next. There's always more to the story, and I'll be here, ready to dive into the next one. Stay tuned, because the truth doesn't always come easy, but it always comes.